Do the Phoenix Suns need to trade Grayson Allen ASAP? Is his shooting no longer outweighing his other deficiencies? Boys, the floor is yours.
I don't know about Grayson specifically, but I do feel like we're getting very close to needing to make a trade here just to change things up. Whether that's Grayson, whether that's Josh Okogie, whether that's Yusuf Nurkic, it kind of just depends on what you're targeting, because we know this team has needs at center. We know this team probably needs more help on the wing, more size. Like, there's a lot of boxes that you need to check right now. So I think Grayson Allen has your most trade value out of the guys that are expendable and you could actually trade. But yeah, I don't know. You really have to make a move of some sort coming up here, because the trade deadline's only about a month away. You're running out of time and things are spiraling right now. So if that is Grayson, maybe. If it's Josh, yeah. If it's Nurkic, yes. But I genuinely don't know what they're going to be able to do with all the restrictions that are posed against them.
I wrote about the dire straits scenario that the Suns are in right now at this juncture of the season. And there's a pressing need for them to shuffle the deck. Mm-hmm. They just need a new crop of guys that bring some different things, both skill-wise and intangible-wise, to this crop to hopefully shift things and to start getting back in alignment with that team that they paid for and desire for this team to be. So the issue with that, though, Grayson has been injured and hasn't been playing to the level that you hoped for this season. That means that his trade value that was once sky high, if you would have dealt him last season, is not what it was. So you can try, but you're not going to get the same type of value in return, or even be able to intrigue the same type of conversations that you would have if you pushed him to the chessboard last season compared to now.
You'd be selling low on Grayson Allen. If you traded Yusuf Nurkic, you'd be selling low on Yusuf Nurkic because he was at a way higher.
Correct.
You'd have to attach something to sell.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Yes. So you are getting to a point where not only do you have restrictions when it comes to financial and your second tax apron, but also when it comes to the pure value of what you can trade, whether it's a Bradley Beal, who is probably the best player that you could trade realistically, but has the worst contract, or Grayson Allen, who has the best contract, but has been playing way worse than what he did last season. And if a team wants to trade for him, the Suns can't ask for as much as they would be able to if he was playing for last season, or just to get somebody off the team like Yusuf Nurkic, you need to attach one of your very few assets that you currently have. But something has to be done, right? Mm-hmm. And it's not my job to tell them what needs to be done, whether it's an internal fix, whether it's an external fix, whether it's trading for Jimmy Butler, whether it's trading for Nick Richards, whether it's trading for somebody that we don't even know is available right now, and trading somebody we're not expecting for them to trade. Something has to be done, and it needs to be done now. You cannot just wait until the trade deadline gets closer and try to make a move then, because by that point, with the way this team is going, the trajectory they are on, spiraling downward, down the Western Conference, under 500, losers again and again and again, with a fan base ready to completely check out if they're not there already. This is not the time for inaction. This is not the time to sit back and say, well, what are we going to get? Where are our cards? And maybe there's no trade out there and they're handcuffed, and then that's that. But they need to be ultra aggressive into making a move right now, a singular move, whatever it is. Something has to get done.
And I do think Grayson is the most likely candidate, because his value is not as high as it was last season, but he's still shooting 38% from three. Yeah. And a lot of teams would be able to look at his situation and say, well, he's been injured. He's also been adjusting to a bench role, which for the last few years, he's been a starter. If a team needs 3-point shooting on that type of contract, he still has a good amount of value. Not as much as last year, but he still has the most value in terms of the 4 tradable guys that you're going to be looking at over these next few weeks, between him, Nurk, Josh Okogie, and Royce O'Neal, who I think at this point we would say, I don't know that you trade Royce because of how valuable he's been from bringing the blue-collar boys effort, from bringing that junkyard dog mentality that not a lot of other guys on this roster bring. So I think if you're looking at those 4 guys specifically, Grayson still has the most value. He's still a shooter. There are teams that could use the shooting. We've talked about Goga Bitadze over in Orlando. The Magic are the worst 3-point shooting team in the league. That type of swap might make sense depending on what Orlando would want in terms of potentially additional second-round picks. If you're going into that first-round pick, I don't know that you attach that to Grayson to make that type of move, but those are the types of deals you got to start exploring now, in my opinion.
Yeah, 1 trade doesn't fix this team. 2 trades probably doesn't fix this team. Swapping Beal for Butler doesn't fix this team. But there needs to be steps, right? You can't sit back and say, you know what? One move isn't going to fix everything. This team is fundamentally flawed. Let's just kick back and let it play out. Steven, this is not a team with the amount of money and assets like thrown into it that can just sit back and see what happens and try to deal with this in the offseason. You need to at least try and salvage this now, because that's the situation that as a franchise you've put yourself in.
Yes, and that's why I feel like taking that big swing, another big swing, we've seen Matt Ishbia take 2 already, taking a third one, and rolling the dice with everything that comes from it, and doing whatever it takes to try to coax the Heat to sending Jimmy Butler to you, because I've talked about the values that the blue-collar boys bring, and even though their values tackle specific weaknesses for this team, some of their faults or weaknesses are loud. Mm-hmm. Do you guys know one thing that Jimmy Butler is? Mm-hmm. He is probably it could be that's one thing, but he is one of the most blue collar superstar players in the last 10 years.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. There's been a lot of superstars, no, obviously. But how many have done the ancillary things, the things that don't show up on the box score, and have been lauded for, or have been applauded for, rather, those efforts in the ways in which Jimmy has, and won to the extent in which he has in doing so? Mm-hmm. I think it takes on a different hit when he's bringing that value and he's not the primary scorer or even the secondary scorer. Or in the Suns context, at times he could potentially not even be the tertiary scorer and can lean more into those blue-collar efforts, from which came from his role-playing days that then ascended him into an all-star level player.
We all silly like the mayor.